Dolphins fans, before we get today's preview started, be sure to hit that big red button and subscribe to the best Miami Dolphins channel on YouTube. Just past 17,000. Let's get to 18,000 sooner rather than later. Tell your friends about the best Miami Dolphins coverage on YouTube right here on Miami Dolphins Today, and be sure to hit that big red button if you haven't already. How's it going, everybody? Welcome into the Miami Dolphins Today. I am your host, RC Maxfield, as the Miami Dolphins got throttled last week in Week 2 against their AFC East rivals, the Buffalo Bills, but they will head out to the desert to face the scorching hot Las Vegas Raiders, who are 2-0, and really the surprise of the NFL after beating the Ravens on Monday night in Week 1, and then the Steelers in Pittsburgh in Week 2. Before we get the preview started, who you got? Let me know down in the comments. Type MIA for the Dolphins, type LV for the Raiders. I'll get my prediction in a bit, but flood those comments with your prediction, and I might even give you a shout out on the next video. The biggest news right now surrounding the Miami Dolphins is that Tua Tagovailoa is officially out for Week 3. He suffered fractured ribs against the Bills. The team announced and will officially be out Week 3 in the desert against the Raiders. Jacoby Brissett will start at quarterback at the Raiders, and well, I'm going to be honest, I don't know if anybody in the NFL wants to play quarterback behind this Miami Dolphins offensive line, but Jacoby Brissett will get the task, and to be honest with you, he wasn't all that bad when he had time. His wide receivers didn't do him a lot of favors, thinking about Devontae Parker dropping the ball in the end zone, Albert Wilson having a couple of drops, Jalen Waddle had one, and then obviously Jakeem Grant fumbled as well in the red zone. But the key takeaway right here, right now, Tua Tagovailoa will miss Week 3, fractured ribs. Don't know how long this will be. In his Wednesday press conference, head coach Brian Flores said Tua Tagovailoa is still day-to-day, but will officially miss Week 3, making it Jacoby Brissett's team, at least in the meantime. Hopefully the offensive line can protect him. But let me know down in the comments, how confident are you in Brissett Week 3 at the Raiders? Type Y for yes. Type N for no. Are you confident? And I'm going to be honest with you. I think it all comes down to the offensive line when it's all said and done. But I'm confident in Jacoby Brissett because he's one of the better backups in the NFL. But it all comes down to that Dolphins offensive line and if they can protect one of those premier backup quarterbacks in the league. Got to shout out today's sponsor, BetUS. It's your one-stop shop for everything gambling. And right now they have the best deposit bonus on the internet going on right now. What you got to do, go to chatsports.com/bet. Use the promo code Dolphins125. And let's say you put $100 down, you'll get $125 back on the deposit bonus. Nobody else is doing this on the internet. There's no even reason to go and check. This is the best deposit bonus on the internet. If you did put $100 down, they'd give you $125 to play with on the site, bring your grand total to $225. A guy not good at math, i.e. me, can even do that. This is the best place to gamble on the internet. Go to chatsports.com/bet and get your best deposit bonus on the internet right now. All you got to do is use that promo code Dolphins125. Will Fuller playing? ? Well, it seems like he's headed in the right direction. On Wednesday, Brian Flores said that Will Fuller will practice in full for the first time all season with the Miami Dolphins. Remember, he missed Week 2 due to personal reasons and reported back to the team on Monday ahead of their Week 3 matchup against the Raiders. But what are we getting in Will Fuller? I think he's been talked about a lot, but behind this offensive line, what could you potentially get with a guy with now Jacoby Brissett at the helm? Looking at Will Fuller and his stats from last season, he's a premier deep threat. We all know that. These numbers are with Deshaun Watson, who's been a major talking point. But Jacoby Brissett has a strong arm as well. And now I'm not trying to say Jacoby Brissett is Deshaun Watson, but if Will Fuller is back in the mix, he brings that top off of the defense, which Miami has been missing. The problem is, does the offensive line allow Jacoby Brissett to even have that possibility of throwing to Will Fuller deep? It is nice to have the weapon back, and he should be good to go if he practices, which he is, on Wednesday. So I fully expect Will Fuller to play and make his Dolphins debut on Sunday in the desert against the 2-0 Raiders, who have a weak secondary when it all comes down to it. Really, their strength on defense is in that front seven. Now, if Will Fuller and the offensive line can come out and produce, maybe the Dolphins can do something and maybe put a blemish on that Raiders record. But Will Fuller is expected to play right now in Week 3. Obviously, we're recording this on Wednesday. Things can change later on down the line, but I fully expect the premier deep threat in the NFL to make his Dolphins debut in Week 3. Give it to me, though. Your one-word reaction to the return of Will Fuller if he does play in Week 3. Mine, probably finally at this point. I mean, it's about time, but really the word that comes to mind for me, hopeful. I'm hopeful that he will be used properly and the Dolphins offensive line allows him to be used properly. As I mentioned in previous videos, I've put him up in the stratosphere of a Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf when it comes to downfield threat. Now, is he good in the intermediate and short routes? Not so much, but when we're talking about a guy that can go deep, he is one of the best elite deep threats in the NFL. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that big red button and subscribe to the Best Miami Dolphins channel on YouTube. We're giving you almost daily content. And again, more subs we get, more videos we make. I mean, that's what the bosses have told me here at Chat Sports. You want more Dolphins coverage? Be sure to hit that big red button and stay in the know on your Miami Dolphins all season long. Let's get into some things to watch for Week 3 against the Raiders for the Miami Dolphins. And I've already mentioned them a couple times in the video, but the Dolphins offensive line against Maxx Crosby. I think it's one of the biggest really storylines in this whole game because Maxx Crosby has really emerged as one of the most underrated pass rushers in the NFL. We've seen what a pass rush can do against this Dolphins offensive line in the first 2 weeks of the season. What happened? Well, 8 sacks. Not ideal, and now your quarterback, at least the starting quarterback, has fractured ribs. I think it's one of those guys where if you can even double-team Maxx Crosby, I'd probably feel more comfortable with it just for the sheer fact of with Jesse Davis on that right side, who's presumed to play with a knee injury that he sustained in Week 2, but it looks like he's going to give it a go. Still questionable right there. I mean, I don't know if I trust him against Maxx Crosby. As I mentioned, one of the most underrated pass rushers in the NFL. Not underrated, Darren Waller. Who the hell's going to defend him? Last year, over 100 yards receiving when the Raiders and Dolphins matched up against each other, and you saw Xavier Howard last year up against him. I think I'd rather see Byron Jones. Byron Jones just brings a little bit more length, a little bit more athleticism when it comes to turning the hips and everything. No, really not talking trash about Xavier Howard. I just think it's a better matchup for the Dolphins to have Byron Jones on him. Now, what you don't want is a linebacker on him. Darren Waller will eat linebackers alive when it comes to those intermediate and deep threats. And Derek Carr has come out and said, if there's two guys guarding Darren Waller, I'm still throwing him the football. So that really what it comes down to on the Raiders offense is who is going to contain Darren Waller and try to keep him below 100 yards. Because if he goes over 100, the chances of the Dolphins winning this game go to minimal at best, in my opinion. I think Darren Waller is the second best tight end in football, only behind his division mate in Travis Kelce. He's an absolutely elite tight end. Who's going to guard him? I want to see Byron Jones. Now for the Dolphins in terms of, can they get the damn run game going? I mean, my God. Like, Myles Gaskin was your leading rusher in Week 2 with 25 yards rushing. And now I know what you're thinking. RC, nothing looked good. Nothing went right in Week 2 for the Dolphins. I hear you, but it wasn't much better in Week 1. This offensive line has really hampered the run game in all of its aspects, whether that's outside the tackles, inside the tackles, whatever it may be. And I want to see a little bit of the run game come to fruition this week because the Raiders have been known to give up against the run. They've done that really, really well in terms of they've given their opponents some run, and their defense is suspect in terms of once you get past that defensive line. In the secondary, if you get in the secondary, all bets are off for Myles Gaskin. The problem is he hasn't had a chance to get to the secondary. This might be the most important aspect of the things to watch in Week 3. Can you pressure Derek Carr? Derek Carr also hobbled a little bit with a leg injury. Gonna play it out in Week 3, but he got hurt a little bit in Pittsburgh, right? If you can get pressure on Derek Carr, you have to do something along those lines, where in the sense that the Raiders' offensive line is right up there with the Dolphins in terms of maybe worst in the NFL. Maybe they're better just because they have Colton Miller on the left side, and he's actually produced and lived up to his draft capital hype, right? But you have to get in the face of Derek Carr and make him throw some bad footballs out there. He's had some touches where really in Pittsburgh where probably should have been picked a couple more times. Got lucky a little bit with it. If you can put pressure, looking at you, Emmanuel Ogbah, and you can get in the face of Derek Carr, that will exponentially increase your chances of stealing a victory out at Alliance Stadium in Las Vegas. And last but not least, do the wide receivers redeem themselves? I think this is probably one of the biggest takeaways on offense in the sense that Devontae Parker had a critical drop. You had as well Jalen Waddle. Then you had Albert Wilson with 2 drops, a guy that really doesn't drop the football at all. I think what this comes down to with the wide receivers, right, is just be yourselves. You don't have to do anything spectacular. Just be there for Jacoby Brissett in the sense of play your game, do what you do best. Don't try and do more. You'll be all right. I think the Dolphins offense, can exploit this Raiders secondary, and it all starts with the wide receivers just doing their job, not trying to do too much and being themselves. That drop last week where Devontae Parker had it in the end zone was critical. Same for Jakeem Grant fumbling in the red zone, Albert Wilson having a drop, Jalen Waddle having a drop. It was not a good week for the Dolphins wide receivers and really the Dolphins as a whole, but on the offense, outside of the offensive line, the wide receivers were really what stood out to me in terms of what needs to get better and what needs to actually help their quarterback out a little bit, which I think they will against the Raiders, against the secondary. Other than Abrams, doesn't have a whole lot going for him. Some players I'm watching in this one is Emmanuel Ogbah. I mentioned that he needs to get some pressure on Derek Carr. He's got to step up. He's got to get to the quarterback. You see his 2020 stats right there, 9 sacks last season. He's got to get well on his way in this one because this is one of the worst offensive lines in football, but the edge rush for the Miami Dolphins and just pass rush in general has been putrid the first 2 games, right? When you've given up 8 sacks on the offensive side and only have 2 sacks in 2 games on the defense, obviously not ideal. I think Emmanuel Ogbah will come out and have a solid game. Hopefully they put him on the opposite side facing off against rookie right tackle Alex Leatherwood. If that happens, I'm excited to see what Emmanuel Ogbah can do because you have to get pressure in Derek Carr's face. Another guy I'm watching to see if he's going to play or not is Jesse Davis. I think Jesse Davis with that knee injury is questionable right now. I presume he's going to play, but I think it's a little bit up in the air right now. I mean, my goodness. Coming into the season, he was your most reliable guy, and then what he did in week 2 was just, absolutely abysmal. There's no other word for it. When your offensive line has allowed 8 sacks in 2 games, you're not going to win games. You got lucky in week 1 that you only gave up 2. I think that goes to show you just how bad the offensive line was in week 2 with the 6 sacks. But if you can play better against a Maxx Crosby and that front of the Raiders who has really improved, and Maxx Crosby is one of those underrated pass rushers in the NFL, I think you have a chance with Jacoby Brissett, but you have to give him time, and that all starts up front with Jesse Davis and the likes in the offensive line. Now, predict the score for me down in the comments. Miami heads to Las Vegas, and, well, I think they're 4-point dogs right now in terms of the Raiders are favorites in this one. It's going to be hard to win with a backup quarterback. It always is in the NFL, and the Raiders are one of the most underrated teams in the NFL, in my opinion. I've got the Dolphins going out and at least scoring in this one, but I have the Raiders winning 31-21 in their second home game of the season out in Vegas. I think it's going to be a raucous crowd. I think the Dolphins are in it for a majority of the game, and then I think Derek Carr and Darren Waller hook up on a long touchdown to secure the win for the Raiders, and the Dolphins fall to 1-2 on the season.